The guy was basically a complete fraud. A complete fraud. He wasted a ton of my time basically negotiating a deal for some comics that he never intended to buy. Like, this guy went so far as to actually give me a mailing address for where he wanted the books to be sent. So the last few days have been pretty exciting, and they've been exciting because I've managed to do two awesome deals for some Spawn comics that have been sitting on my floor for the last month and a half. And so what happened was that I was trying to put together my own run of Spawn, because Spawn is super hot right now with everything that is happening with Todd McFarlane and King Spawn and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to try to put together a run. And so as I was going through the 100K collection, finding those bins that had Spawn and pulling those issues to put together my own run, I had the realization that I had a lot of extra copies. And so there was one bin in particular that I was going through that actually busted on me and has been sitting on my floor for the last month and a half. And I've been walking around this box for like the last month and a half, not really inspired to do anything about it. And what happened is, a day or so ago, somebody actually reached out to me and was like, hey, I know you have a ton of books. Do you think you might have some Spawn books between 200 and 260? And my question to him was, how many are you looking to buy? Because that's the big thing, right? How many are you looking to buy and what are you willing to pay? And he kind of stated for me what his cap was for what he was willing to spend. And it was that cap that motivated me enough to actually turn the TV off and get off the sofa and go to see whether I actually had those books in that busted bin. And sure enough, I actually did. And I went through the bin and I was able to find 31 books that this subscriber was looking for to complete his run. And so while I had a few more books than maybe what he was looking for, I actually exceeded his budget. He was able to meet me where I was, and I basically sold him 31 books for $5 each, which is not a bad price. That is not a bad price to pay at all. And so I think that he's going to be super happy when he actually receives those books, because they are literally in the mail as we speak. But because of the success, if you will, of that first deal, I decided to be a little bit more proactive. And I actually put a post up on social media asking if anyone was looking for large lots of Spawn books in the 20 plus range. And after about 5 hours or so, someone actually reached out to me and was like, hey, I am looking for some books, and yes, I do need some in that range, but I also need a bunch of other books. What do you have? And so they actually sent me their list. I took a look at it. I felt like I might be able to help them. And then my question again was, how many are you looking to buy and what are you looking to spend? And we had a little bit of back and forth, and I basically said, hey, I can probably find these books for you, but the cost is going to be $5 per book on, what I find. Person agreed. I again got up and went back to that same busted bin and was able to find a nice stack of books to be able to sell to this person. I found 33 books that they happen to be looking for in that exact same bin that's been busted on my floor. And so I am here momentarily going to bundle all these books up and send them off to their new owner. And what's cool, well, I should probably give a couple of caveats here. In these two lots of books, there are no like major keys. These are all like run books. They're all, in my opinion, in pretty solid shape. Some of them are a little banged up, not terribly, but still all of them are at least a 9.2 and above. That is my general feeling. I did not do a dirty grade on all 60 some odd books, but they are in solid shape by and large. So again, I think the second seller is also going to be very happy with his purchase. And between these two deals, I basically walked away with $320. And if we take out some of that profit, because I did have to rebag and board the books, I'm still sitting in a really good place. And I say that for several reasons. First and foremost, I buy my bags and boards in bulk. So I'm always buying them in 1,000 lot increments. That way my per bag and board setup cost is actually lower because I'm buying them in such heavy quantities. And so again, if you subtract a few bucks for bags and boards, not all of them required new bags and boards, but some of them did, I'm still sitting in a really good place. And the question that I'm asking myself, well, I'm asking myself technically a couple. The first question is, how can I parlay this $320 into something else that might be more meaningful? Should I go out and buy another book or two that I can then do something with? Should I take these proceeds and actually get a couple of books graded that I could then turn around and sell? That is part of what I'm trying to noodle. And some of this has been inspired, to be honest with you, by a TV show that I've been watching on Netflix where these guys are like wheeling and dealing cars. It's like Rust to Riches or something like that. And it's actually a really fun series to watch. And that has inspired me. That has inspired me to start trying to do some wheeling and dealing, but more importantly, to actually capture it, because I do deals a lot, but I don't always film them for the purpose of creating a video to talk about what it is that I'm doing. So all of that time that I've spent on the sofa was not for naught. I mean, I'm actually putting it to good use. So let's see where this goes. Overall, I think that things are progressing quite nicely with this project. Well, to some degree or another, because of the success with the first two deals, I actually tried to open the doors a little bit wider by using social media to say to people if they have runs that they're working on to reach out. And I actually had several people respond to me. One of those folks that reached out was actually looking for some Batman cartoon related comics. And so we had a little bit of a back and forth, a spread out over time, where I was trying to find some books in the collection that might be used for the purpose of a sale and possibly even a trade. And the challenge right now with trades is that a lot of people have great books, but they're not really willing to part with those books right now just because of what's happening with the values. And I definitely get that. So I ended up working out a deal for some Batman adventure comics. And unfortunately, it wasn't a massive deal. I mean, it was a healthy number of books, but because of the value associated with that specific title, it didn't net me a ton of money. But I ended up selling roughly 26 copies of a comic for about $4, which brought in a little over $100, basically bringing my grand total to $424 for the 3 deals that I've worked thus far. And I'm actually in the process of working 2 additional deals. One of them is for some Hellblazer comics, and the second is another massive deal for some Spawn books. And honestly, if I'm able to secure those 2 deals, that will put me in a great position to be able to pick up an awesome Silver Age comic. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I'm able to close out those 2 deals, because that'll bring my grand total to right where it needs to be. So fingers crossed that I can make that magic happen. I'm actually going to try to ping these guys back this morning to see if we can keep the deal moving forward. And in both cases, we're actually going to do deals for cash instead of trade. Again, to the point that I was making earlier, that a lot of folks have some good books. They're just not really ready to part with them right now. So I am pumped, and I am pumped because the 2 deals that I've been working on appear to be going through. With the first deal, the additional Spawn books, I messaged the guy earlier today. He responded right away and went ahead and sent me the payment via PayPal. And so I've been able to sell 65 additional Spawn books at $5 each, bringing my total up to $325. The problem was that I miscalculated shipping, and so I charged him for shipping, but it was only for 1 box. I had to send a second box, so I absorbed that cost instead of asking him for additional money. So because of the extra shipping, it actually takes my proceeds from $325 down to $3 $310, which still is not a bad amount of money. So I'm definitely pleased with how that went. The second bundle of books for the Hellblazer books, I am hopeful that this deal will also go through. Like the first guy, I pinged this other guy. He messaged me back. He says that the funds have been sent via PayPal, but because he is out of the country, actually in Canada, or because he didn't have a PayPal account, I'm not quite sure of all the details, to be honest with you, but his money is actually being held. And that's actually happened to me before with other transactions, so I don't think that there's anything crazy that is happening there, but his money is being held up, and he tells me that it should clear in a day or two. So fingers crossed that that goes through, because if I'm able to sell these Hellblazer books, that will put me over the top and being able to get a really awesome Silver Age book that I've had my eyes on. And the book is one that has been on my want list since 2018. I originally put this book on the list back when I did this video in which I did these cutouts of the covers of the books that I was targeting for that year. And I was able to get every single book that I was targeting except for this book. And I am hopeful that I can make some magic happen here. Now, what's interesting is that someone reached out to me recently, a person that I've done business with before, asking if I might be interested in this book. And they offered me a price on this book that is actually below the most recent sales price for this comic. It might also be below FMV. I need to check the data on that. But I am hopeful that, again, if I can sell these Hellblazer books, that will put me in a position to being able to buy this Silver Age book. Basically taking comics that are in the 100K collection and converting them into something that I really want and need for my personal collection, at least until I'm able to upgrade the book. Because I will tell you, the book is actually a little bit lower grade than what I wanted, but the prices for this comic have been insane. And I'm purposefully not telling you what the book is because I need to see whether this is going to work itself out. So fingers crossed that it does, and I'll be able to reveal it all to you guys. But this is a really fun process to go through, right? This idea of identifying books within the 100K collection that I don't necessarily need, finding people that are interested in these books, being able to, sell/trade these books into something that I really want. It is a fun process and probably something that I'm going to continue, and hopefully I will continue to have some success. So stay tuned. Let's see what happens with this next deal. So the fourth deal for the Hellblazer books is a complete bust, and it is a complete bust because the person that I was dealing with turns out to be a fraud. This is a guy that has come into the chat over like the last couple of months, tends to be a little disruptive, and will change his name frequently. And oftentimes on YouTube, I'm able to spot who he is because of like the naming convention that he actually uses. I'm able to identify him through that. But I wasn't looking for that thread, if you will, on Instagram. So when I was interacting with the profile over there, I was taking it to be just a regular subscriber, not necessarily this guy from YouTube. So, long story short, we had the back and forth. He went so far as to provide me with his mailing address for where he wanted the books to be sent. And when the money didn't show up like it was supposed to, that's when I went and looked at his profile and figured out exactly who he was. And I will tell you for a fact that I am not at all deterred by this situation. I remain hopeful that the path that I've set down will lead to something really awesome. And, the next message that I get on Instagram might just be the deal that I'm looking for that will put me over the top and put me in a position to pick up a really awesome comic or two. We shall see. So here we are. I was able to make it happen. This is Fantastic Four issue number 52. The first appearance of the Black Panther. And as I mentioned, this is a book that I have wanted in my collection for a very long time. And I finally have it, albeit at a lower grade than what I wanted, but at least I'm on the scoreboard. I am on the scoreboard. So the question is, how did I make it happen? I actually was able to execute a sixth deal. I went back to some of the people that I had sold books to already, and one of them wanted to do some more dealing, specifically around some Spawn books, and so we made some magic happen. And I ended up selling to this individual a total of 75 Spawn books for $5.50. I also sold some additional Spawn titles like Hell Spawn, Curse of Spawn for $2 each, and this deal actually netted me a profit of $450.50. And when I combine it with the other deals that have been executed, it brings my grand total to $1,184.50, which gave me enough money to be able to buy the Fantastic 452. Now, the cool thing about that book is that I was able to actually buy it below the most recent sales price. I think Heritage actually had a sale most recently for $1,250. If memory serves, I was able to pick this book up for $1,000 shipped, which again is not a bad way to go. So I was able to sell some books I didn't necessarily want, picked up a book that I've wanted, and have a couple of bucks extra on the side to maybe do some other things with. So this was really a fun project for me to work on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And if you did, if you enjoyed this process, I definitely want to encourage you to leave those thoughts behind in the comment section. If there are some additional details you might be interested in, let me know that as well, because if I do decide to do another one of these, I like to try to integrate some of those missing components into that follow-up video. As always, you guys can reach out to me on Instagram at Regie Collects. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, I want to encourage you right now. I want to officially encourage and invite you to subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss out on any of the content that gets released. Take care.